各位记者朋友，
Friends from the media, good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference. Now the floor for question is open.
谢谢发言人。RT 今日俄罗斯记者提问：今日欧盟外交与
Recently, Kailas, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, announced that the EU, citing reasons that there's a danger and the need to curb Russia from funding its war, allow vessels operating under its Mediterranean naval mission to inspect and seize foreign oil tankers carrying Russian oil. Earlier, the French Navy already seized an oil tanker. What's China's comment? Do you think this will affect international energy shipping? We have taken note of relevant reports. China always stands firmly against illicit unilateral sanctions that have no basis in international law or the authorization of UN Security Council. We call on the parties concerned to find solutions through dialogue and consultation. Next one, please.
发言人下午好，汉联社提问。
Yonhap News Agency. On the talks between the Chinese and DPRK leadership on the 8th, I have 3 questions. First, in the Chinese readouts, the words Korean Peninsula or denuclearization did not appear. Were these topics discussed? Second, President Xi mentioned diplomatic, law enforcement, and mil-to-mil exchanges. Does this mean that there will be military cooperation between the two sides in the future? Third, Chinese and Russian leaders agreed in May to continue with the DPRK consultations on access to the sea through the two main rivers. Were this mentioned in yesterday's talks?
关于中朝领导人会晤，
China has released a readout on the China DPRK leaders meeting. On your first question, China's position and policy on the Korean Peninsula issue maintains continuity and consistency. On the second question, I'd refer you to competent authorities for anything specific. China stands ready to enhance exchanges with the DPRK in diplomacy, law enforcement, military, and other fields, pooling wisdom and strength for the growth of our bilateral relations. On your third question, information will be released in due course if there's any.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢发言人澎湃新闻提问。我们注意到
We noted that the Chinese government released yesterday China's national report on the implementation of the new urban agenda, titled Advancing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Through High-Quality Urban Development. Executive Director of the UN Habitat, Rosbach, and others from the international community have spoken highly of the report, stating that China's experience in urbanization offers valuable lessons for global south. What's your comment? This year marks the 5th anniversary of the Global Development Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping, and the 10th anniversary of the adoption of the new urban agenda at the UN Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development. This report summarizes China's progress in implementing the new urban agenda and shares with the international community China's experience in advancing sustainable urban development. In recent years, adhering to President Xi's vision of building people-centered cities, China has made remarkable progress in advancing a new type of people-centered urbanization, with urban spatial layout continuously optimized, urban amenities further improved, living environment increasingly comfortable, and urban governance more efficient. I'm sure that many of you here today can relate to that. The China travel experience, safe, comfortable, and futuristic, has earned Chinese cities an overseas reputation. In the meantime, we also share our experience of urban governance and development with countries around the world, particularly those from the Global South, promoting exchanges in areas such as housing development, green and low-carbon initiatives, and smart cities. Besides, China is actively engaged in cooperation with UN Habitat through events celebrating World Cities Day and the Global Award for Sustainable Development in Cities. China is supporting UN Habitat in advancing the new urban agenda, winning broad recognition from the international community. China stands ready to work with countries around the world to continue advancing the GDI, deepen exchanges and cooperation in urban development, and inject further impetus into the advancement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Next one, please.
Hi, this is Bloomberg. Can you tell us more about the floating structure flagged by the Philippines in the South China Sea and any diplomatic actions that are underway?
请再重复一遍你的问题。
Could you tell us more about the floating structure flagged by the Philippines in the South China Sea and any diplomatic actions that are underway, if you can tell us about that?
黄岩岛是中国的固有领土，中国对
Huayanndao has always been China's territory. China has indisputable sovereignty over it and its adjacent waters. It is fully with a sovereign country's rights to carry out activities, including scientific research. Let me stress, we urge the Philippine side to stop hyping up the issue.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
Thank you so much. I am Naid Purisa from IRIB, Iran National TV, Press TV. The United States, through its sea blockade, and Israel, through its continued attacks on Lebanon, are violating ceasefire agreements with Iran and undermine ongoing negotiations and diplomatic efforts. As we saw yesterday, such actions can force Iran to respond, and the situation can escalate very quickly. It seems the United States is betraying diplomacy once again, and Israel is trying to draw Washington into another unjust illegal war in West Asia. What is China's position on these violations and actions that undermine diplomatic efforts as a global power and a permanent member of the UN Security Council? What can China do practically, and not just verbal condemnation, to help prevent another US-Israeli war against Iran and promote a peaceful resolution? Thank you so much.
美以伊的战事持续了
The US-Israeli-Iranian conflict, which has dragged on for over 3 months, has dealt a severe blow to countries in the Middle East and the Gulf region. Facts have proven that military means cannot solve any problem, and arbitrary use of force will only complicate issues. The Iran-US negotiation is at a crucial stage at the moment. No party shall reinstigate military conflict. Regional countries' sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity should also be respected and upheld. China calls on relevant parties to remain calm, exercise restraint, stop any confrontational action that may escalate the conflict, take concrete actions to cool down the situation, and resolve disputes through political and diplomatic means, and work for an early realization of a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire. China stands ready to act on the spirit of the 4 propositions of President Xi Jinping, make further effort for ceasefire and peace, and continue playing a positive role for restoring peace and tranquility to the Middle East and the Gulf region at an early date.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。日本广播协会提问。
NHK, another question on denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. You just mentioned that China's position maintains consistency and continuity on this issue. Does this mean that China will continue to push for denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula?
回答了有关问题。
I have just answered relevant questions.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
Thank you, AFP. The US has put several Chinese technology companies, including Alibaba, Tencent, and BYD, on a list of firms that it says aid China's military. I just wondered what China's response to this is. Thank you.
中方一贯坚决反对
China always firmly opposes the US overstretching the concept of national security and creating various types of discriminatory lists to go after Chinese businesses. We urge the US to correct its wrongdoings and stop the unwarranted suppression of Chinese businesses. China will do what is necessary to firmly protect their legitimate and lawful rights and interests.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢立本交立电。
Asahi TV, according to reports earlier this month, China Coast Guard vessels sailed within the EEZ of Yonaguni Island of Japan's Okinawa Prefecture. In response to Japan Coast Guard's call, the Chinese side claims that it was routine patrol in areas within China's jurisdiction. Was this true?
关于中国
China Coast Guard vessel formation in waters east of China's Taiwan Island in accordance with the law. The law enforcement patrols of the vessel's related information has been released by China Coast Guard. Let me reiterate that China has exclusive economic zone and continental shelf in this area. Japan, the Philippines' attempt to bypass China and initiate the so-called maritime delimitation talks constitutes a severe violation of UNCLOS and other international laws and basic norms governing international relations. It also seriously infringes on China's maritime rights and interests. China would not allow this. Next one, please.
Hi, it's Bloomberg again. The Nikkei is reporting that the US has asked China to resume rare earth exports to Japan. Can you give us any details on that?
你问到的具体情况，建议向
For anything specific, I'd refer you to competent authorities. Let me stress that in accordance with laws and regulations, China banned the export of all dual-use items to Japanese military users for Japan's military use and for any other end users and end-use purposes that could help enhance Japan's military capabilities. The aim is to contain Japan's remilitarization and its attempt to possess nuclear weapons. Next one, please.
发言人韩连社提问。
Yonhap News Agency, according to Taiwan's Foreign Affairs Department, yesterday, ROK lawmakers met with Taiwan Foreign Affairs deputies for exchanges on geopolitical challenges, economic trade and cultural exchanges, semiconductor and AI development. How do you see this?
部分没有
Taiwan is part of China. There is no such thing as Foreign Ministry of Taiwan. China firmly opposes official exchanges of any form between the Taiwan authorities and countries having diplomatic relations with China. The 1992 joint communique on China-ROK diplomatic ties clearly stipulates that The ROK recognizes the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government representing China, and respects China's position that there is but one China in the world and that Taiwan is part of China. Since early this year, the ROK has publicly reiterated on multiple occasions that its commitment to the One China principle remains unchanged. China has launched serious representations with the ROK over this matter. We urge the ROK side to bear in mind the bigger picture of our bilateral relations, honor its commitments, and earnestly adhere to the One China principle. The ROK side should refrain from any form of official exchanges with the Taiwan region, avoid being exploited by Taiwan independent separatists, send no wrong signals to them, and maintain the sound and steady growth of our bilateral ties with real actions. Next one, please. Any other questions?
好，那今天的记者
That concludes today's press conference. Thank you.